We have lots to discuss here in today's video, including some trade talk around a few teams going into the beginning of the NHL season here. Today's trade talk revolves around teams like the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Vancouver Canucks, as well as the New Jersey Devils. We also have a big update from Elliotte Friedman regarding the Kaprizov contract, claiming there was still some tampering going on behind the scenes. We have a whole lot of players on waivers today. Another longtime NHL veteran has announced his retirement, and we have some more significant injury updates. Plus, we'll recap quickly a big signing with the Devils and Luke Hughes, and a trade involving the Oilers and Utah Mammoth. All that and more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we got lots to discuss here in today's video. First up, I want to start by acknowledging a couple of longtime NHL retirements. One we've already discussed the other day, just has now been made official by the NHLPA. The other day it was just kind of just speculated that it was happening, but it's indeed has. Max Pacioretty, former captain of the Montreal Canadiens, of course, member of the Vegas Golden Knights, Washington Capitals, and most recently the Toronto Maple Leafs, is hanging him up after a pretty long and pretty successful NHL career, and has taken on a job working with the University of Michigan, where he did play some college hockey before turning pro. So we did discuss Pacioretty's retirement the other day, so I didn't kind of already went into some details on his career, but that is official, so that indeed is for sure happening. And then today we learned as well that longtime NHL defenseman Erik Johnson is also announcing his retirement. Of course, the former first overall pick back in 2006 by the St. Louis Blues is calling it a career. Has over 1,000 games played, 1,023, played 17 seasons, 348 points, won a Stanley Cup, of course, with the Avalanche as well. Pretty long, pretty successful career. For a player who dealt with a lot of significant injuries over the course of his career, he was certainly somebody who persevered a lot and managed to get in a lot of games and have a lot of success. I don't know that he really ever lived up to the hype as a first overall pick. I mean, Johnson came in with some pretty high expectations, but ultimately he still had a great career, just not quite the level that I think might have been expected from him. But sometimes a lot of players, they're drafted where they're drafted, and it's not their fault. They can't change that. And of course, who wouldn't want to be a high draft pick? But sometimes it kind of puts a little bit more pressure and things like that. But Johnson persevered through all that and still had a great career, just not quite the offensive numbers I think a lot of us thought he would put up, based on what he had accomplished when he was younger. But still, lots to be proud of. EJ was a beloved teammate with the Avalanche, especially during his tenure there when they won the Stanley Cup. Now, as I mentioned, all kinds of news from the waiver wire, and I did do a video on this earlier, but in case you missed it, here's a quick recap. Tyson Jost was placed on waivers yesterday by Carolina. He was picked up today by Nashville, so he's changing teams. Tyson Jost makes the jump from Carolina to Nashville, and we have over 30 players on waivers here today, including with the Bruins, Billy Sweezy. Avalanche have Wyatt Amott, Daniil Gushkin. The Red Wings have Sheldon Dries, William Lageston, John Leonard, Ian Mitchell, Dominic Shine, and Austin Watson on waivers. The Panthers have Mackenzie Entwistle, Wilmer Skoog, and Nolan Foote. The LA Kings have Samuel Bolduc, Logan Brown, Martin Chromiak, Phoenix Copley, Glenn Godden, Cole Gutman, and Joe Hicketts, as well as Andre Lee, Akil Thomas, and Taylor Ward. That's a lot of Kings on waivers today. The Nashville Predators have Andreas Englund. The Rangers have Casey Fitzgerald. The Flyers have Lane Peterson. The Sharks have Patrick Giles. The Lightning have Nick Abruzzese, Boris Kachuk, Jacob Pelche, which is a bit of a surprise, to be honest. Utah has Jackson Stauber. The Caps have Louis Belpito, Graham Clark, Henrik Rubinski, and Bogdan Triniev. And the Winnipeg Jets have Jared Anderson-Dolan, Kale Clegg, and Samuel Fadimo. Now, like I said, I thought Pelche played real well in the preseason for the Lightning. I thought he might be able to squeak out a spot, especially with some injuries like Nick Paul to start the season, but that doesn't appear to be the case. But a few other players I would think might have a shot at getting picked up. I would say maybe Jared Anderson-Dolan, maybe Andreas Englund, maybe Akil Thomas. There's a few there that might be intriguing to other teams, so we'll find out. We also had a player on unconditional waivers. This is for the purpose of mutually agreed contract termination, which is the Columbus Blue Jackets parting ways with defenseman Christian Jaros. Now, we also had a couple of fines today from last night's preseason game between the Montreal Canadiens and the Ottawa Senators that took place in Quebec City. Fine goes to Sens forwards Nick Cousins, $2,148 for slashing on Ivan Demidov, and Hayden Hodgson picked up a $2,018 fine for boarding as well. It was a complete gong show game, to be honest. There was lots of guys in the lineup for both sides that like to fight and sometimes do some stupid stuff. On the Ottawa side, Cousins definitely deserves that fine. The slash on Demidov was unnecessary. It was just kind of stupid, to be honest. Nick Cousins, I don't think, has had a very good preseason for Ottawa. Of course, both Jack-Eye brothers were in the mix for the Montreal Canadiens. They were both very much involved. Zach McEwen was involved. Carter Yakimchuk to some degree. Jaden Struble. I'm a little surprised there was no fines on the Montreal side. Yan Unique got a stick to the face. Great. He was all bloodied and slashed. I think that was Struble, if I'm not mistaken, that did that. Nothing for him. Jack-Eye, I thought, might have come off the bench during one of those situations. Again, nothing there. I don't know. I thought the whole thing kind of got out of control. It was a bit of an embarrassing game for the Sens, to be completely honest. I'm not sure why they continued to try to build in Quebec City. The building was 95 to 98% Habs fans. I just think if they want to do an exhibition game in Quebec City, that's not a huge thing. I can understand them. They see an NHL market they think is untapped, but I think they should maybe concern themselves more so with like Gatineau and places closer to them, and the other areas closer to Ottawa. That's just my take. I mean, I think the whole Quebec City thing seemed like the players had a good time. They had some good chance to be on the road and kind of do some bonding and all that. But all in all, I'm not really sure that was a successful purpose. I mean, it was good for Thomas Chabot. Now, obviously, he's from that area. Had a chance to really allow him to, show the team and a lot of his teammates about where he grew up and go to his old schools and things like that. And obviously, get to go golfing and see where he spends time in the summer and all those things. Like from a off ice perspective, I think it was a good experience. But just the on ice, I don't know that it was really justified and really them spending that much time in Quebec City, but we'll see what happens. I know there's a lot of Sens fans not really thrilled with the amount of time they've spent in Quebec City over the past couple of years. I do agree with their trying to build their footprint outside of Ottawa. I think there is some untapped areas. Maybe come to the Maritimes. There's definitely some Sens fans down this way. You have some players that have ties to Nova Scotia PEI. Maybe try going to some of those areas. When they have done some exhibition games because of Kraft Hockeyville, they always do very, very well there. So maybe put the focus on some other things like that would be my advice for Michael Landlauer and Steve Staios, but we'll see what they do moving forward. Some injury updates as well. Kraken defenseman Riker Evans is going to be out for about 6 to 8 weeks dealing with an upper body injury. That's not good news for the young defenseman at all. A couple other news items that were noteworthy earlier today, again, that we did do a video on, just to quickly recap. The stalemate between Devils defenseman Luke Hughes and New Jersey is over. He signs today, 7-year contract, $9 million per season. So that is over with. He will get in training camp right away. He's now the highest paid Hughes brother. Of course, now they all have contracts expiring at different times as well. So we'll see how things play out for the rumors around the Hughes brothers will possibly all play together at some point. But Luke Hughes gets it's a big contract. Now we've already heard a lot of the attention about Dougie Hamilton. And now I think that's likely going to continue to pick up as the Devils go through this season. And obviously Luke Hughes playing a big role for that team is going to reduce the role of Hamilton and certainly going to increase the likelihood that they try to figure out a trade sometime between now and the trade deadline. I mean, it could be sooner, could be later. It's hard to say. They do have some other things they can consider doing, but ultimately, a lot of people feel like that's the route they would prefer to go down. And of course, we did see a trade earlier involving Utah and Edmonton, where the Oilers picked up goaltender Connor Ingram for future considerations, and the Utah Mammoth retained $800,000 of Ingram's salary. It's basically allowed the Oilers to get him at a salary that's 100% fully buried in the minor league. So he's already cleared waivers. He can go straight to their AHL affiliate team. He can be their number 3 goaltender. And should Skinner, Pickard get hurt or struggle, they have him kind of down there trying to find his game, kind of get a fresh start and be ready to be called upon when the opportunity presents itself. And like I said, it won't affect their salary cap while he's down there doing that, which is the best news of all. Ingram's had some really good seasons when he's put together a full year and didn't have any of the off-ice stuff going on that he was recently dealing with. So he does have a good past, and we'll see where things go on that front here as well. Obviously, some other rumors speculating around the NHL today. Elliotte Friedman did talk a little bit more about the Kirill Kaprizov contract between he and the Minnesota Wild. Of course, Elliotte had made some pretty strong comments saying that he thought but couldn't prove that there was some tampering going on in the background, and now he's saying he definitely feels that was the case, which is probably what led to Kaprizov and his agent rejecting the initial contract offer of the 8-year deal at $16 million. It obviously pushed him up to have to go to 17 to get him to commit, but he feels that there were some people in his ear, which could be other teams or, maybe through a roundabout way, suggesting that there could be offers of upwards of $20 million per year available should he not sign and push it to free agency next offseason. So clearly, that's not good. You don't want to hear about tampering. I mean, that's, he's under contract with the Wild for another year. They have the exclusive rights, or at least they're supposed to talk about contract extensions. So I don't know if there'll be any kind of accusations between the Wild to the league about anybody else. I don't know if they know any more firm details that's not being said publicly, but certainly not a good situation for them to be in, and they likely ended up paying out an even bigger contract because of that. So you certainly don't want to see that happening around. Now, speaking of another goaltender and another signing here that we could see, Frank Saravalli is reporting that it seems pretty likely at this point that Carter Hart is most likely going to land with the Vegas Golden Knights. Of course, we had heard that he and the other players that were involved in that 2018 World Canadian Junior Team lawsuit and trial, that they would be reinstated and eligible to sign contracts as of October 15th. They cannot appear or play until December the 1st. They are suspended until that time frame, but as of October 15th, Carter Hart and any of those other guys can sign contracts. And it's believed that the Golden Knights and Hart are likely looking at a 2-year deal, somewhere around a $2 million average annual value. So obviously, for Hart to kind of reestablish himself, get on a pretty good team, that's been rumored that they were going to be likely one of the teams there. So based on their goaltending situation, it does make sense that they would pursue another experienced goaltender of some sort to kind of add some reinforcements behind Aiden Hill. So I think that's a good spot for Hart to go. He should get enough starts to be able to play, and we'll see where things go on that front. Another player who was hoping to make a return to the NHL and won't be right now, at least not for the next little bit here, but Evgeny Kuznetsov was looking at opportunities. There was between his agent and reports that were coming out before suggested that there was at some point during the offseason as many as 10 teams that were interested, and it was most recently revealed that the Panthers and the Leafs were like the main ones that were still kind of waiting around trying to figure out getting him signed, but they said that both the teams needed to make other moves to kind of clear some space, and that hasn't happened. So I don't know if those reports, how accurate they are, but Kuznetsov has opted to sign a 1-year contract in the KHL with Mendelberg. So obviously he will not be returning to the NHL this year. I don't know. We'll see if the next offseason there's more speculation about a return or not. Time will tell where things go for the former NHL veteran player. When it comes to the Toronto Maple Leafs, Elliotte Friedman today reporting that we've heard plenty about the Leafs trying to move a bunch of their forwards because they have way too many. So, Kelly Yarncroke, David Kampf, to some degree Nick Robertson. It sounds like not so much with Robertson. There's been some speculation that the Sharks are one of the teams interested in him. There's likely a few others are rebuilding teams too. I would think Pittsburgh might even be a good landing spot, to be honest, with Kyle Dubas obviously knowing Nick Robertson well and wanting to add more younger players in that lineup and organization. But the Maple Leafs are running into issues trading guys like Yarncroke and Kampf because other teams that might be willing to take on the contract are looking for some sweeteners. They're not looking to do the Leafs any favors. They're not looking to do it as a even if they don't have to give anything up, like a future considerations type of return, they want more. They want draft picks. They want prospects. They want something added to the deal to sweeten the pie for them. And, well, right now the Leafs, apparently, according to Elliott, are not interested in doing that. We'll see if anything changes in the days leading up to the beginning of the season here, but we're not too far away. We're less than a week away from teams needing to have their final roster set and being cap compliant. That might be challenging for the Leafs. They might have to put these guys on waivers and get what relief they can. But they're certainly trying to make moves and not having a whole lot of luck. Robertson would be more likely to be moved, I think, because I think he's played better. There'd be more interest and he's younger. But obviously these guys are... I don't know. Their days appear to be numbers, but maybe they're going to have to end up playing for the Marlies. We'll have to wait and see on that front. And Darren Dreger's reporting today as well on Vancouver that they are searching hard for a number 2 center. It doesn't sound like they really want to have Philip Hedl in that role. They don't necessarily see that as a great situation for the team to be competitive or at least be in a playoff spot this year. So he didn't have any specific names that they were targeting or that they had inquired on, but he says that they are scouring the NHL, talking to lots of teams, trying to find that player. So again, between Hedl, I guess maybe not having enough confidence in him to be the number 2. Of course, they get Hoglander out long-term as well. The Canucks don't want to have a bad start to the season, so we'll see if things materialize there. But there's lots of names. We had heard previous names, like Pavel Zacha, for example, was a name. Casey Mittelstadt's name was out there. Belief is on Mittelstadt that the Bruins kind of want him to start the season and see where it goes before they decide if they're going to be interested in having him around for the future or not. So it's hard to say if the Bruins could end up being that team that they end up making a move with. And Frank Saravalli also reported today that the situation between the Blue Jackets and Chenikov. Chenikov, I know he had some interviews and kind of made it sound like things were, I guess, a little bit better. He's maybe on a little bit better terms with head coach Gene Evison. But according to Frank, he has not officially rescinded his trade request that he had made with the team. And it is still possibly a scenario that we see with the Blue Jackets entertaining and kind of trying to accommodate that request. But I do think it's fair to say from what we've seen and heard that it's a better scenario. I think he's at least open to staying if they can't find a deal. But with lots of teams looking for secondary scoring still and trying to sort out their rosters, now probably would be a good time if they felt like they had to make a move. So we will see what things plays out here between the Blue Jackets and Chenikov, but still another player to keep your eye on that could find themselves on the move before the season gets underway. Let me know your thoughts on all of today's news and rumors, and we'll talk about it further down in the comments. If you're new to the channel, of course, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.